I'm currently living and working in China, which is amazing. The overreaction around the globe has been completely out of proportion to the actual risk. So my workplace is currently shut, and my gym is shut, and my coffee shop is shut. Hi, I'm Leeza Silverman from Italy. A little bit about my background. My family is Yugoslav and I'm born in Australia. And in my 20s, we were able to move back to Europe. So I've spent most of my life in Italy and then in Europe because I did a law degree and then my background was in regulation and accreditation. I'm currently living and working in China, which is amazing. Before China, I was living and working in Chile, South America, and before that, I was living and working in Turkey. So I guess that really, I'm a global person. It's really hard to say where I'm from, and I've got properties in different countries and passports for different places. But these days I call China home. I'm 52 years old, which means that I'm on my second life now. I'm living and working here as a teacher now. It's fantastic.
Great. What countries have you worked in?
In my former life, many, because being based in Europe, everything is so close, so that doesn't really count. But in my current life as a teacher, I've worked in Turkey and in Chile, Vietnam, and now currently China.
Okay, great. So, what's it like working in China?
I think that here's the best of everywhere that I've worked.
What kind of jobs are available?
Well, what kind of skills do you have? So the major reason that people come to China is for teaching. So that can be as an English teacher or as a qualified teacher. So the skills required and the salaries available will vary widely. A lot of people come to China and study at the universities here, so clearly they're speaking good Chinese, which means that so many opportunities in business here because all the world wants to do business with China. I have, for example, Turkish friends because living and working in Turkey, I know a lot of Turks and they are very good at business. So they're running successful businesses between China and Turkey. So that's one. And as I said, I've got friends that speak fluent Mandarin because they've studied here and they have actual business skills and contacts. So they're working in the Chinese corporate world. But for mostly when you see foreigners on the streets here, Chinese will just assume that they're English teachers. I'm not. And then for myself, I'm a kindergarten teacher, and then I have some other side hustles online. You can do a lot of social media stuff from here as well.
What's a typical day like for you at your job?
We're an international baccalaureate school, so any IB teachers will be fairly familiar with that format. I will tell you what's cool and interesting about schools in China, all of them, and something that blows people's minds when they watch videos on YouTube, is morning dance. So all schools do that here. So the teachers get out and with the students and we do group dancing. I catch a Didi to work. Didi is, I guess it's the Chinese equivalent of an Uber, which is only 10 minutes away from my school. And so we have morning dances, we have morning lessons and a little snack. And then that'll bring us up to lunchtime, then sleeps after lunch, more activities in the afternoon. Let's speak a little bit about what happens at the school. So we're a IB school and it's a bilingual school, which means that I will deliver lessons in English and my Chinese counterpart delivers those in Chinese. I'm also able to speak Chinese, but because these are younger children, it's better that to encourage their language because they're in a completely Chinese environment here. It's better that they actually speak English. So yeah, and we finish. The children get picked up about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I catch a Didi home. I'm an avid gym goer. I'm very into fitness and nutrition, so I love cooking a lot of vegan meals at home, and I work out 5 days a week in the gym here. So yeah, that's pretty much my life. And holidays, we get a lot of holidays. So most teachers, when we're not at work, we're traveling everywhere in the world. So it's pretty good.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so then how much money can you earn?
US 60,000 a year. Yes, that's more than enough for me to lead an extremely comfortable life. So, as I mentioned, teachers, when we're not at work, when we're on holidays, we travel an awful lot. So, for example, I went home to Italy, then I went to Turkey, then I went to Lebanon, and somewhere in between there, I also went to Korea as well. So all up, it was 7 weeks holiday. And this winter, I was in Thailand and in Hong Kong. So normally in the winters, to escape the China cold, I go somewhere warm. So is it enough to live comfortably? Yes, I do all of that. And China, everything comes from here. So I have no limits to my online shopping and everything that I want to do. And I still manage to save on top of that. So yes. I live very comfortably here.
So then how much can you actually save?
On my package, I usually save around about 40,000 US dollars a year, and I don't find that I have any budget limits or restrictions. I shop as much as I like, and I'm able to put away 40,000 US dollars a year. No problems. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, depending on, how reasonable or unreasonable I've been with my shopping habits.
Okay, so staying along the lines of money, how much do you need for startup expenses?
So probably around about 2,500 RMB a month is the average apartment costs. Airfares, you'll need to pay them up front, and then the school will reimburse them in 2 stages. So in summer and winter holidays, they will reimburse them. Probably modestly about 500 RMB a week you would spend on groceries and whatnot, and maybe about 800. I tend to go through about 1,000 a week because I shop like crazy online. Yeah. Shopping is fantastic here. So, and, it really just depends on you. But for myself, I like to have a large buffer fund, but I realise that I'm not the average. So I think a lot of people, if you had a few thousand behind you, that would be okay. If you had less than that, well, then you would need to live more frugally, yes?
You have your job, you're ready to move there, so how should you pack and what's the weather like?
Short answer is China is a land of extremes. That's both good and challenging. So in the summer, it's as hot as hell. In the winter, it's freezing. Again, because China is so large, where in China are you going to be? Because try and fit a map of America or of Europe into China to get an idea of scale. You just can't comprehend how large this country is. So yeah, so what to pack? Well, everything comes from China. So your favorite items, I guess, but really everything you can just buy here, so it's really not an issue. So in the south, if you're somewhere like Guangdong province, it's quite humid there. And then if you're way up in the famous Harbin in the north, where there's the ice sculptures, maybe you'll be Canadian and used to that kind of colds and extremes. I'm in Jiaxing in Zhejiang province, and even here, it's just incredibly great extremes. You get nowhere in between. In fact, I've lived in the south before and in this kind of centre zone here, and I've never found that you get long shoulders like you do in Europe of autumn, fall, or spring weather. It just kind of just goes from one extreme to the other.
Well, are there things that you can't actually find in China, and then how do you cope with that?
Not a problem. There's nothing that I can't get here. So, yeah. In fact, it's really the opposite problem. There's so many things that I didn't know that I could want here in China that, Yeah, I've got a new wish list, and so China will just blow your mind with what's available here.
That's good to know for all those who love to shop. So, a question that's always on someone's mind, is it safe there and do you feel safe?
Actually, can I go off topic on this one? Because I think as a global citizen, at the tender age of 52, having travelled most of my life and always been a foreigner, the world is safe. You know, I've just come back from Lebanon in the summertime. People still in their minds think that it's 20 or 30 years ago in Lebanon. I've lived in Turkey. I've lived in Italy during, crazy times. Never an issue. The world is a really safe, warm, exciting and welcoming place. And China specifically, it's a non-issue. I don't know what to say about this one. It's probably one of the most safe countries that I've ever been in. In fact, generally speaking of Asia, and Korea's the same too, because I see Korean YouTubers on that, and I regularly go to Seoul. It's awesome. It's a big honor system here. So if you leave something in China, you know that, and you've forgotten about it, go, oh, I wonder if my jumper's going to be there tomorrow. You go back to that exact same place. Nobody has touched it. It can be money or personal things. It's incredibly safe. It's really not an issue. I just did think of one thing. Living in Santiago, Chile, I was always jumpy there because it's not, they're not going to kill you. There's different parts of Latin America where they've got a joke about things that will happen. Anyway, so there it's mainly just a lot of petty theft. So I nearly lost my bag once. Friends have, lost phones on the train because people just pilfer them out of their bags or just snatch them straight out of your hand. So Latin America, that's a known. But as far as China specifically, completely a non-issue. Asia in general, it's just in the culture. And when you get used to living in Asia, you find that people just don't touch stuff. They wouldn't think to do that. Turkey, because of their culture, it's the same thing. And generally in the world in general, I've never had an issue with safety. It's just a shame that the more that social media seems to make people more scared and more fearful is my note on that one.
Well, that leads us into a hot topic right now, which is the coronavirus. So how has that impacted you?
Not a lot, to be honest. We went on leave on the 16th of December and we were meant to go back to school on the 10th of February. So all of that period, a lot of it was Chinese New Year. So I was traveling and in various places. I came back to China in January, just before all of the world went crazy with COVID. And I noticed, fortunately, the World Health Organization director put out a press release to this effect that the overreaction around the globe has been completely out of proportion to the actual risk. So let's just put the big thing out. I'm tired of hearing all of the conspiracy theories and the hysteria around this one. Go to primary sources of information like the World Health Organization, listen to medical experts and get your facts, please. Social media has a lot to answer for in this current age of unwarranted hysteria, and that is the words of the director of the World Health Organization. On that serious message back, how's it impacted on me? Terrible, because my gym's still shut. So it's been shut. It was meant to open after Chinese New Year. So that still would have been, I don't know, about a month of closure anyway. And just at the moment, we're still waiting for clearance from the government on when our lives can return to normal. So that just means since the 10th of February, I've been working from home and, still able to do normal things like go to the supermarket and grocery shop and life continues as normal. It's just all the things that I like to do that are really, really important are shut. So my workplace is currently shut and my gym is shut and my coffee shop is shut.
Oh, wow. It must be a big adjustment. So then how do you meet people?
Meeting people in general, not an issue. Chinese people are the most curious, most friendly, most open, most outgoing people that you could ever wish to meet. So my observation has been that generally expats like to hang out with other expats. I'm a weirdo because I have no country or no home. Wherever I live is home. So I always mix with locals, and I'm pretty good at languages. Obviously, I speak English, but I also speak Italian and Spanish because, where I've lived and worked and grown up, and a whole host of other reasons. And 是的，我会说话中文. So, if you can speak the language, you're going to make local friends, no problems. But I do notice that mostly in every country in the world that I've been, all the foreigners seem to like to hang out with each other, so be it.
Well, then, what kinds of things do you do for fun?
Well, I think you've already had an insight into that. I'm an incredibly curious person. I'm on my second stage of life, and I'm soon about to enter into my third stage of life. So fun is my amazing lifestyle that I've created for myself, traveling all over the world, learning languages, always studying. I'm just finishing my third master's degree now. Yes, seriously. And I'm crazy into health and fitness. I really want to do some bikini bodybuilder competitions. It's maybe a bit of a pipe dream. I may never do that, but to that end, I work out 5 days a week in the gym, and I'm a vegan bodybuilder. So I really love cooking and sharing all of my vegan creations on Instagram, learning how to do social media stuff because, I really think that health, nutrition, fitness and lifestyle is something that will only continue to grow more and more here in China. And then once I leave China in the future sometime, I don't know where I'll end up next, but, that's a brand and a lifestyle business that I'll be able to take anywhere with me.
Shifting gears a little bit, a really important topic is your visa. So, what's that process like?
Short answer, awful. It's, China is a communist country. It's closed off. So even just for a simple tourism visa is so challenging. It puts people off coming to China, which makes it a mystery country. And that was why I reached out to you to make this video, because I actually live here, unlike a lot of YouTubers that say they lived in a country because they've been there for 3 months and filmed something. So the good news, however, not to put people off, is that when you have a job with an international school like myself, or, generally speaking, all of the schools, but, to various levels of quality, they will take care of that visa process for you. So that's great. But some years it's really awful. Why did I have a year in Vietnam? That's because after 2-year contract ended, I was in the south of China lecturing at a university as an adjunct professor. And then I decided that lecturing at university just wasn't my cup of tea. I changed jobs, and the Chinese government changed the visa rules and process system, which led to a holy nightmare. Short story was I lost my new job. I lost all of the paperwork. I lost my home. I lost my furnishings, everything. I had to go and live and work in Vietnam for a year and then try again and come back to China. And now my current contract is coming up here. It ends on my visa ends on the 30th of June. And we're in the middle of COVID at the moment. So that's leading to more anxiety and more problems. And who knows if yet again I won't be able to transfer and my visa will expire. So it's incredibly complicated, and to be honest, that's why a lot of teachers leave and don't come back, particularly my Russian friends. So that's why teaching is such a good package, why it's such a good wicket here, because the government, through their processes and controls, restricts supply, which, it has its benefits and disadvantages. But I can say, compared to, for example, South America, when I was Chile, I had a job there legally because I never do anything illegally. I come from a law background. If anybody decided to social media stalk me, they could question my ethics. So I've always maintained a very high professional standard, even in my new life. In South America, never. They're just so inefficient, delays, disorganisation. The most messy immigration office I've ever been to in Santiago, Chile. But for China, incredibly painful, but the rewards are there for the pain. But some years, just be prepared that your life can be completely destroyed. So that makes you a strong and resilient individual if you can do that, which clearly I am.
Well, how's healthcare, and would you get a procedure done there then?
Let me answer it in a few different stages on this one. So simple answer is that's all provided by your school, and look carefully at the packages because some of them provide global coverage. Some of them, for our US friends, it's a concern because they exclude the USA coverage. So that will depend, but mostly if it's a reputable school, it's covered. If it's not in a fancy international school like I'm in, they usually have, let's say it's a university job for an English teacher, they usually have some kind of minimum care. Now, let me get into the details of this. China, as you can now see, if you've done my map exercise, is enormous. Money is everything in China for this reason, access and equity. Read up on Chinese healthcare. Access to healthcare is of concern. So when I was in Jiangxi province in Ganzhou, that's a poor area of China, the hospitals are frightening. And when I had a minor health incident and I was sent there, I never want to go through that process again. Currently, I'm in Zhejiang, which is one of the richest provinces in China. Teachers still need support to go to the local hospitals here. They're much better, but they're frightening by Western standards. I'm not being dramatic here. So normally they will go to Shanghai. So really you're stuck back in the two cities of Shanghai or Beijing for internationally accredited hospitals. So what's my solution to all of this? Well, I actually go to Thailand for all of my medical needs because all of the doctors there are JCI accredited. So I should probably say I know a little bit more about this than the average person because my former life as a regulatory affairs expert, it was in healthcare accreditation. So I actually know what all of that means. So that's why I go to Thailand, because it's cheap and international standard, high standards with doctors that have been trained in countries like America, in Europe. In fact, when I was living in Italy, I would still go to Thailand for medical care.
You talked a lot about traveling earlier, so do you think China is a good travel hub?
Not particularly. I think that Istanbul or KL is way better.
Okay, good to know. Lastly, what are some pros and cons about being an expat in China?
I think that I've already hinted to that. That was the online shopping is fantastic. The packages for teachers are amazing, and just generally Chinese people are so friendly and kind. So I just love my life in here. I've always feel like I've got warmth, love, protection, and extended family here. Some of the cons, the air. Mostly it's terrible. I'm always wearing an N95 to protect against the air here. Most days it's above 80 AQI, and it's better or worse depending on where you are in China. But I always wear, and I've got 2 or 3 air purifiers at home. Another one is a VPN. You're going to need to have that because China blocks the internet for various reasons. So that is extremely tedious. And that's a reason why we also get out of China, is just to get our normal lives back. And then lastly, it's a communist country, so you have to be careful about what you say. China makes it very clear that we are guests of China, and that means that we have got to be very careful about what we say. Practical impacts of that just mean that I can never have really deep friendships with my Chinese friends because, I've got the helicopter view on the world, whereas for a lot of them, they live here, but they've never lived and worked in other countries for extended periods of time. So you've got to be very careful about what you say. So that limits your ability to form, honest, open, transparent, and trusting relationships with people. I am very careful about what I put online or post or say because, that's an issue.
Awesome. Thanks, Leeza.